At your convenience. Good morning.
Good morning. I trust the place was aired out sufficiently.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, let's go with it.
I I seriously believe that's not what I should be breathing in, you either or anyone else. But
What is that stuff? What was it? That's a new smell for me. Did you use that before?
Yeah,
You did?
it's a different wax. We couldn't get the Zep from, it would have taken too long to get the Zep from wherever.
So it is new. It's a new smell.
Different
Okay.
wax, yeah.
yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Pungent.
Yeah, it's pretty sticky.
Asthma?
Yeah, you don't want to.
Oh no, I don't like to breathe those things in anyway.
Yeah, I had a sneezing fit this morning. I couldn't stop sneezing, so it must be spring from my house, you know.
I heard something about supposed to get some snow over the weekend. A snowstorm, as it were.
Yep.
They say when spring finally arrives, the groundhog is going to be the first thing on the grill.
And the grill?
On the grill.
What? 1, 2. I won't miss this. How's that so? Well, this is on. I should- 5-2. Yeah, this is it. You know, I should get my calendar. Whew.
Those tiles in that bathroom are very nice.
They're not in yet.
I said they're very nice. They're in, but they haven't been grouted.
Are they in? I don't think they're in.
Good morning.
Right here?
I saw them in the bathroom.
Yeah.
The tiles?
No, I don't think so.
Nice.
Are the tiles in?
So he's gonna ask it a third time.
I think they're placed.
I heard you, all three, but I still don't believe it.
Okay.
They have those little
Good
things
morning.
that,
Yeah.
you know. I think they're
They came
finished.
already? I was told it was gonna be a few weeks. That's why I'm
Well,
saying.
maybe these are the substitute tiles.
Mr. Miracle. Yeah, been a little too busy to bother with it, so. Right now. Here we are. Judy, what are you doing?
One of my little things to do is to cross out the misinformation on the envelopes, and I have a new batch to add to the other ones.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah, you're doing that, aren't you?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. The Tom Fee Retirement Foundation.
How's that doing, by the way?
Not great.
Well, you're not retired yet, so.
No, I'm
It's
not.
time.
No, I'm not. I am not retired. Whew. Let's do that.
Actually, they say, oh, you know, you got all this free time when you're retired, but it's not true.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
And you know, you're slower at doing things too, so.
Yeah, yeah, and you just,
Need more time.
and you see doctors all the time. I've heard that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you change your job to
Good morning.
work with doctor.
You keep good health and all. It's the luck of the draw, but I think
Yeah.
some people have to worry about it, some don't.
Yeah.
And histories of things, so.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Some odd friends. Hello, Norman Gino is in the house. Hi.
Good morning.
Your shirts say life's too short to live.
How are you?
About that.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Ask me in a week.
Very seldom do I stop smoking.
Even by next Monday, you may be better.
Christ is risen, all the ministers are dead. That's what I'm saying.
Hallelujah.
Never.
If you had to choose, that'd be the way to go. Ruth, how are you? How are you? There you go.
Okay, what's the history of that cross?
I was on that for a time.
Which
What's
And,
the real history of that cross?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. No significance.
I don't know anything around here. Ask Louise Roller. She'll know.
Louise Roller can tell you the history of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
She probably,
She told me the history of the bathroom.
but
You
we've
did?
always used that during the Lenten things, or like Good Friday, she'll have it in black
Okay,
Yeah, it'll
balls,
be
and then,
because that one's too high.
exactly.
yeah.
We can do it, but it's iffy, to get up there.
No.
That's too.
It's a little dangerous.
Whose negligee is that on the cross?
Thank you, Odom, and
You loaned it, right?
here we go. We're 2 minutes into it. That's terrific. We'll wait a couple minutes and get going. I've been looking at a schedule, and what do you think about, talked a little bit about, or I did, about Jonah. Yes, Jonah? And I'm looking at 4 weeks in May,
Okay.
something like that. And that'll be it. You never have to hear another word coming out of my mouth.
Maybe by then we can open the windows.
Okay.
Are there just 4 weeks in May? Is it, you starting the first week in May and then
Well-
is that those?
Yeah, I think that, well, I want to, I kind of want to, what was going on before that? I've got people coming over to my house from Montana. We're going to the Cathedral of St. John of the Vine. I've got people coming over to my house, 10 people staying in my house, Henry Kading's Montana crew.
Well, it's nice you have that big house now, so you
Right.
can keep a crowd.
Well, right, yeah, I think it's kind of responsible to use it, right?
When is Henry having his birthday? Isn't there a big bash or something?
Yeah,
When is that?
it's the 20th of April. So we've got all that kind of stuff going on in April, excuse me. And I've got a concert to go to and have, so May is better for me. And if you don't mind, I've got my friend Frank Alagna coming to preach too, by the way.
When is that?
It's on the 12th of May.
Mother's Day.
He's going to talk about, he's really involved in Kingston with, not migrants, but immigrants
Oh,
from Central and South America, housing them. Yeah, he's a really interesting guy. He's pretty fiery too, and I've known Frank for 25 years. He's like my.
You're not going to be here that day?
No, I will be there.
Oh, you'll be.
Yeah, I will be.
Oh.
Yeah, he's
what's his last name?
Alagna. He's an Episcopal priest and a clinical psychologist. He's like my big brother. He's like a big brother to me, and I've known him a long time.
And that's May 10th, did you say?
Well,
Is that what it is?
May 12th.
May 12th.
May
He's
12th,
coming.
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. Yeah. So I'm sure. And then I was having dinner with Simon Guerrara and Gita, his wife, last night, and I asked him to come and preach. He knows how to, he's a public speaker. He was the head of he was the medical director at Vassar. He's a cardiologist. Yeah, he was the medical director there. Yeah, a really good guy. He's
He's a
been,
speaker too.
huh?
I didn't know he was a speaker.
Yeah, and it was Margaret Guerrara. You know Margaret.
Margaret.
That was her son. And so I asked him last night if he would come and talk about the heart. The heart. This, and, And he was willing to do it. So I don't have a date yet from him, but he'll come and do that, and he'll do a great job.
He's a nice guy.
He's a terrific guy, and, worth knowing. And then, so
And,
that's what we got cooking.
and it'll still be a Tuesday?
For Bible study, if you don't mind, yeah,
Not at all.
it's okay. And, the book of Jonah is, it's 4 chapters, so I thought one chapter per, if we don't get it done, if you want to go on a 5th, we can do that. I mean, that's not the end of the world for me. That seemed to fit. It's a nice, before summer, that's what I'm thinking. That is there are a lot of books in the Bible that are really important. That's definitely one of them, in my estimation.
I never knew it was even in the Bible.
Huh?
I never knew it was in the Bible.
Jonah?
That's how
Jonah.
much I know about the Bible. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad then we do it, and I'm glad you come. So, what are we doing now, Job?
So we're finishing him up today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the ending. There's two bits that are important, I think. And last chapter of the book. It's a big book, right? 42 chapters. Don't you think? I mean, it's a big book, and I would say pretty generous. I would say it's a generous addition to the Old Testament. 42 chapters is a lot, and it's way bigger than any of the Gospels. Hey, Cindy.
The way I remember it is right before Psalms.
Yeah.
I don't know if that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's poetry in its sections and existential. Yeah. Well. Anyway. What I was saying is it's a very generous thing, not the only one either. There's a number of examples in the Old and New Testament where it's really generous in the sense that the Bible tries very hard not to make this thing, the whole thing, into a caricature of religion. In other words, it's multifaceted. It's not like a, it doesn't portray the people in the Bible as caricatures. They're real people. Even the ones that are in theological narrative like this. He's like Job is multifaceted, has many layers to him. The people in the Bible have human reactions to things. You see what I mean? They're not cartoon characters, in other words, which you can have that in other books and mythologies. You'll have characters that don't seem quite human. Am I making a point? Am I? And that's what Margaret said, and I thought it was crazy. Oh, Margaret, there you are.
I'm really sorry.
No, we just got started.
Thinking of your mother, and she said, oh my God.
My mother?
Yeah, you told me, she said you had to be 5 minutes early for it.
30 minutes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
30 minutes. Oh, yeah. My mother, 30 minutes, you're on time. Both my parents were like that.
You listen to what you say.
Well, now having heard that, I'm going to be more careful about what I say, even though the hour is late. I can improve. Anyway, so that is an extravagance of the Bible to offer the characters in the Bible to have real responses. I think that's cool, right? One of the ideas being we could be there too, with our human reactions, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's really generous that way. Like you could be there too. You could be right next to Abraham. You could be right next to Job. You can be part of these stories. You could be one of the disciples, and so on. You're welcome to enter the story as you are too. It's great, right? It's really hospitable. It's a hospitable book, right? There's a lot of stories that do this, right? You're not welcome in the story. You're not welcome. But this one, it's okay. You can come on in.
If you want to.
If you dare, sometimes, right? If you dare. Anyway, I thought I'd start with that. So why don't we take a look at this thing? This is the ending, and the epilogue. That's how my Bible regards it. It's 42, chapter 42. Last chapter, I'm looking at 7, verse 7. So there's going to be two paragraphs, one having to do with Job's friends. I sort of warned you about that one. And then we've got, we'll take a look at it. Is everybody there? Job, I always have a hard time finding it.
Page 424.
Job's friends are humiliated.
Yeah. Okay, would someone belt it out, like 7 through 9? Okay,
Something else?
go ahead, Margaret.
Okay. After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, "My wrath is kindled against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now, therefore, take 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering. And my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept his prayer, not to deal with you according to your folly, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has done." So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the Shuhite and Zophar the Naamathite went and did what the Lord had told them. And the Lord accepted Job's prayer.
Excellent.
Good reading, too. Were you practicing this?
Oh, no, but I talk to myself a lot at home. You know,
It's a really good reading. Yeah, keep that up, Margaret. You're going to be up there. Keep it up. So, can someone break that down and just in your own words? What's going on here?
Obedience versus disobedience.
Mm-hmm. Well, break it down even just in your own words. Tell the story all over again. What's going on?
Job chooses to live as God chooses him to live and does what God tells him what to do, no matter what his personal opinion is and or what he wants to do. And the other friends, sounds like they hear what God is saying, but they choose to do it their own way.
Okay. So, anybody else? Yeah, good. Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? God is not happy with the friends
Right.
because
They didn't speak really the truth to Job. They just told him their opinion of what was wrong with him. You're not okay, you know.
Yeah.
And they should have been accepting and helpful rather than speak to him the way they did. Speak to him the way they did. It's sort of a, you know, are you being kind to people? Are you doing the right thing?
Well, they actually spoke, and on top of that, they actually spoke wrong of God.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
well, how are they supposed to? How are the friends supposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you said no. You're up.
Well, how are the friends supposed to know that what they were saying was wrong? See, forgive me,
How do you know? Right. How do you know?
because I mean, they thought they thought they were saying what was correct, right? Well, you do bad things, you're going to suffer for it.
Right.
They thought that. So I don't know where they got that idea. I mean, I don't know why they didn't think that idea was God's idea, or how they should have known.
Well, they thought they were. No, sorry.
Yeah, just back up, was their actions portrayed in the other books before? I mean, we haven't read everything in Job yet,
Right.
so maybe there's something that I missed.
Well, they're reaffirming what we all think. They were reaffirming to Job what we all think God is thinking, and that is, somehow you deserve this. You have it coming to you.
You did,
That's
whatever it was, you did.
That's right. Right. And at this point, God is saying, and again, these are writers. It's a group of writers. You know, you got to keep that in mind. The writers are saying, well, they weren't representing God. It's not that way. It's not that way. You don't get what you deserve. It doesn't always happen in life. It's not always that way. We can't make the assumption if somebody's going through hell that they have it coming to them. Do I have that about right? I think it's close. That's close. And if you're going to represent that kind of thinking, that kind of worldview, you're not representing God. That's what the writers are saying. See what I mean? The writers are talking about this. You know, they have coffee, they have a little beer or something.
So was this revolutionary at the time?
Yeah.
Everybody knows when this was written.
Yeah, and what I was saying, I don't know, donkeys years ago maybe, I can't remember anymore what I say or when I say it. But the Bible, one of the great things about the Bible, it is not a monolith. In other words, it's not. It doesn't beat the same drum all the way through. It doesn't. It talks to itself. And the book of Job, it argues with itself. And the book of Job is specifically, and it's amazing that it survived in the Bible. The book of Job is saying, okay, we hear all this stuff. You can read out of Proverbs and out of the Psalms and other places too, and Exodus and blah, 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 that you get what you got coming to you. If you live a righteous life, you'll be blessed. If you don't live a righteous life, you'll be punished. I mean, it's all over the place, right? It's all, especially the Old Testament, it's everywhere. The book of Job says, wait a minute. This is the counter argument. The counter argument is, okay, that may be that there's cause and effect in the world, in God's world, God's mind, God's worldview, let's say. Okay, that's valid. That's a valid point. But, and here comes Job, it doesn't always happen like that. It's not always like that. You're not always punished. You don't always go through difficulty because you got it coming to you. It doesn't work like that. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, how do you think, I always tell people it's about the condition, God sees the condition of your heart.
Yeah, well,
In Job, your opinion of what you see here, I'm asking is, does that come into play, the friends, about their condition of their heart? I don't know, I'm asking.
the condition of their assumption is that they've represented God. They've represented what we see in the rest, in a lot of the Bible, and that is you have it coming to you. They bring those changes in different facets, with different facets. But the whole thing, the whole story begins, right, by saying, my servant Job is without blemish. He's a righteous person. That's the writers, right? We're going to set up a righteous person, and we're going to destroy him in his life. So it does not fit the cause and effect that we understand in so many other places in the Bible. It just doesn't apply.
Well, does it mean that, like you'll hear what they're thinking is what you hear a lot of people say, if something bad happens to somebody good, and why would God let that happen?
Right.
So God actually did that to that person. And you never know what to say to people like that, because it is a question, I'm sure, that people do.
Of course, people leave the faith over
Yeah.
this, right? I've
Why
met a lot of people like that over the years.
allow that to happen?
Right.
Why
Yeah.
is he allowing all those
Yeah.
children in Gaza being starved to death? And,
Yep.
why is he allowing?
If God is
that?
good, why does he allow suffering? That's a basic existential question, a theological existential question. If God is good, why do we suffer? Right? So you only have a few options with that, right? Harold Kushner, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? You know that one, little tiny book. He's a rabbi, or was. I think he's dead now, but he had a son that had this crazy disease where he got old. What's the name of? Huh?
Premature aging.
Yeah. So he went through that, and so the question is, of course, why? And so his book, which I recommend, it doesn't answer everything either, but he says, okay, you have a few options here. Either God is good, God is all-knowing, and God is all-powerful. Those are the three biggies, right? And Harold Kushner says, Rabbi Kushner says, you only get two. You only get two out of three. And you have to choose which either God isn't good, but he's all-knowing and all-powerful. Okay, you can have that combination. You can have that. All-knowing, all-powerful, but not all good. You can have that one. Or you can have all good and all-powerful.
But he didn't know what you're talking.
But that doesn't work, does it? That one doesn't work. You can choose it, but it doesn't work. Not really, not unless you change your definition of good. Or you can have God is good, but not an all-knowing, but not all-powerful. Those are your choices.
Well, we delete him.
Kushner? Well, then you have to explain why there's human suffering in the world. Why would a good God do that? Well, Rabbi Kushner won't let you off the hook on that one, right? And say it's a mystery, right? Which we do. You hear that too, of course, throughout the centuries. It's a mystery. Well, what's not a mystery is human suffering. That's not a mystery. We go through it every single day in different permutations every day, somewhere, year, 2/3 of the congregation, they tell me, have told me for years and years, 2/3 of the congregation on any given Sunday are grieving a loss from the last year. 2/3. 2/3 of the congregation are going through grief at any given time. Yeah,
Well, the good thing is that they actually love the person enough to grieve.
that's the dark side of love, isn't it? Is grief. Yeah. Yeah, that's in my homily, or that's in my liturgy for funerals. Have you heard that?
I heard it recently, I think.
Yeah, grief is the dark side of love. So anyway, that's Kushner. That's free information. But I think he's, and it doesn't really satisfy, maybe, either, because it's a little disturbing if you go, good God knows everything, can't do everything about it. That's, pick your poison, is basically what he says. Is it possible to live a life of faith and live a big life and still live underneath it all with uncertainty? That's Job. Don't you think? I mean, you may disagree with it, but that's what's being presented here. There's no question about it.
I think it's true.
I think it's true.
Even if you totally trust God with everything, there's
That's it.
an uncertainty.
Yeah, and so,
Just trusting Him through it.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's very modern, really.
Sorry?
Job is very modern.
Don't you think?
At the
Yeah.
time. Does anyone know when it was written, or is it just, I suppose nobody kept track of.
Well, they got it cozied up to the Psalms, and that's 1000 BC, 3,000 years ago. That'd be my guess.
So the Bible is in chronological order?
No,
No, because I asked that one time, but yes,
no, it's not.
but
Like-
maybe,
Like the epistles of St. Paul are the earliest by far in the New Testament, by far. I mean, they're almost contemporaneous, St. Paul's letters, whereas the Gospels are, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later. Yeah. So, yeah, you got to watch that.
I'm sorry, I have to be excused. Go ahead, call. Oof.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
Well, we might as well just fold it up. If Odom's not going to be here, forget it.
There's something else there.
Odom, did you leave?
Did you leave something?
Yes, thank you.
So I brought this up maybe a couple of weeks ago too. We've been talking to friends about this, and in terms of what is the opposite of faith. Is it disbelief? Is it certainty? Is that the opposite of faith? Certainty.
Yeah,
Or doubt, you have to play with that a little bit. And, I've got my own point of view, but it doesn't matter. But what is the opposite of faith?
Hopelessness?
Hopelessness? Yeah, you just toss that around and see what you think about that, And I think for me, the more I've kind of done that, the more I appreciate Job. Because it will not, those writers will not close that circle. They won't do it. It takes some discipline, right? To not close the circle. When you see where it closes, but they won't do it.
what do you mean by close the circle?
Make it all better.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry, just,
Yeah, to make it all better.
reality. Job is reality.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't relate to it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Ecclesiastes has this feel to it too. There's a time for everything under heaven. The Birds wrote that, the band. No, they didn't. They sang it in the 60s, remember? All right.
God's condemnation of Job's friends. What does that tell us about
Right.
ourselves?
Right. It
I think,
pins us to the wall, right?
yeah,
He puts up with a lot.
Sorry?
God puts up with a lot with people, and then that's it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's condemning the friends.
But
And they're putting-
they thought they were speaking for
Right,
God.
right.
And maybe the whole message to us is don't think you're
Don't
so
speak for
smart
me.
about what I'm thinking because you don't know.
Don't presume the mind of God. And if you do, step lightly, And yeah, and so what does God require of the friends? What do they have to do?
Get along.
Give them some burnt offerings and
Atone.
prayers.
And-
Through Joe.
Yeah, through Job.
To Job.
Right.
It's crazy.
Job has to
It's
pray.
crazy. What God has asked, what God tells the friends to do is nuts. They must have had a ball writing this.
Some friends.
Well, and some God. God didn't say, you owe me. You don't owe me.
Right.
You owe Job.
Right.
So you're going to sacrifice an animal like you would to a God, to Job, to your friend. It's crazy.
Excellent.
They must have roared with that answer,
I think
right?
it's excellent because he's tying back in the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't owe me. You owe Job. And you're gonna sacrifice animals in front of Job as if he's God. It's crazy. It's a crazy story.
And then there's the forgiveness. Job prays for them.
Exactly.
Right,
Right.
we've got forgiveness in there too, which is.
Right. It's crazy. The whole thing is crazy.
Humbleness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
So Job is gonna pray for these guys.
Because Joe could have been like,
Right? Right. Forget it.
and that would have shown a different character.
Exactly. So these writers, I just love them, and it's old text, really old text. So we've been, as a human family, been thinking about this for a while. And I'm sure this isn't the only example as far as world literature goes. It's just a nutty, crazy story. Is it? I know they dreamed it up. Has anyone ever sacrificed in front of you? Come to you and said, how would that feel? And then and Job is, I don't know how he does it, but he forgives his friends.
Don't you think Job realizes that God's with him completely?
Say it again.
Don't you think Job realizes that it's not just him, it's God with him?
Yeah, well,
Big
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. But, this is the whole thing, a lot of the story has to do with redemption. And who do we have at the end? We have Job as the key figure with his friends to restore them. Having gone through all that he's gone through, he's still...
People that are doing the same thing, not for God, but forgiving, for sacrificing something just so that they could get back this person that they're doing damage to. So they'll get a reward.
Yeah, maybe, but these, in this instance, it's God directing the friends,
Yes.
right? You're right. God
I'm
is
wondering if
saying,
it happens to just the common man.
let me guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Yes.
It wouldn't be like
Good
a
one, though.
sacrifice, it would be like a real true humbleness of asking for forgiveness.
Right. Or it could be unbelievable manipulation,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
My cousin with Alzheimer's, who's passed away now, got to hate Job. And his dementia, he was so
That's interesting.
focused on Job and preaching.
Yeah.
I was almost scared.
Wow.
I don't know what was going on.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
It-
triggered him.
It triggered,
Yeah, triggered him.
But he could still read.
or what he remembered, but
He was holding on to it, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was,
And it was when his dementia was very advanced. He was focused on Job.
Maybe you saw a parallel story, right? Parallel experience. Yeah.
But not the good ending.
Right, well, we'll see how good it is. Sorry. Sorry about that. Well, okay, so the writers of Job, they're saying they've said, okay, what are we going to do with these friends? Well, let's do this with the friends. It's kind of a crazy, redemptive end, you know. And okay, well, we'll see you next week. Next week comes around. They're in the pub. How are we going to end this thing? How are we going to end this story? So they're all talking to each other. Well, you know, what about that? What about this? And why don't we do a sloppy copy and see how that goes? And we'll read it to our friends and our wives, and you know, see what they think. They can. And this is what they came up with. This is the final word. Okay. Let's see how it ends. 10 through the end, 17.
So you should read it then.
Huh?
You should read it.
I could read it. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends. And the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then came to him all of his brothers and sisters, and all who had known him before, and ate bread with him in his house, new house. And they showed him sympathy and comforted him for all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him.
Okay.
And each of them gave him a hunk of money and a ring of gold. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning. And he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 she-asses. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first Jeminah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Corinne-Hapapuzumana. And in all the land there were no women so fair as Job's daughters, and their father gave them inheritance among their brothers. And after this, Job lived 140 years and saw his sons and his sons' sons 4 generations. And Job died an old man and full of days. So what do you think of that wonderful ending?
Certainly a happy ending.
Happy ending, close that circle. Everybody feels good.
A happy ending.
Happy ending. Oh my God, it's just it makes me want to cry.
Over the
Except it doesn't.
I know it's strange they said that all of the trouble that the Lord had.
Right. So they read Kushner's book. They read his book. And they said, well, he's got to be all powerful, so we got to add that back in there. Because otherwise, we can't say that he's not in charge of, all that the Lord has put upon him. Yeah. So when I see, remember I told you I'm gonna have a memorial service on Saturday for a 34-year-old woman who died of an overdose. Saw their family in my office, and you know what I said? I said, "You have other children, don't you?" Well, that's good. At least you have other children. So you lost one. What's the big deal? Do you say that? That's probably not very pastoral or human.
You have to focus on the particular event.
Right. Well, that's what they're doing. Is there something missing here? Do you ever miss? I mean, he's gone through.
Well, he lost his original son.
Catastrophe. All of his animals, his buildings, his everything. So does it make it all right? Now that you've been restored, is it all right?
No.
You can just forget all your other kids, your fortune, your health. you just forget it.
A clean slate.
Clean slate isn't fabulous. Disney should pick this up. How do you feel about that? I mean, how do you see it? Is it okay? Is it okay now?
Really, drawing the line in the sand and stepping over, and your previous life with your family didn't exist.
Or matter.
Right, or matter.
Or matter, right? Yeah. It's not a great ending. Well, it's up to you, but does the ending work? Does it work that everything's all better? You get sun's
In a
down.
fairy tale sort of way.
Yeah.
No apology there, I'm sorry that happened. Or something.
I don't remember if anyone survived from his initial family.
His wife.
His wife.
His wife. Everybody else is gone.
And then
So-
she was that life that went on and had all those kids after that?
Maybe after
I
that.
don't know.
We didn't hear about
Judging from what she said prior to this, I doubt it.
Yeah.
People usually say there's comedians you've heard about, of all the people that were not gone, and it's the wife just to nag.
Yeah, it's the nag is
The
left,
nag.
right? Yeah, get rid of your faith, dump your faith. You know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she was a bit of a nag.
She was terrible. Just get rid of your faith, you know, curse God and get on with it, you know, that kind of.
Well, he has to be supportive of his first, let's assume she's his first wife, they have to have some sort of memorial recognition of what happened.
Yeah,
But not necessarily, they have to go forward, they can't have a pall of gloom over all these
Right.
other 10 new children and brothers and sisters and
right.
everything. You know,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can have a memorial every year or so, but they have to move forward, be supportive, constant.
Both are true, right? You have to recognize that something.
In life, there's, you can think back with different stories. In life, a lot of people don't acknowledge or there's no recognition. So,
Well, you buried alive. That's what Diane DeGroat would tell you. You buried alive, and then good luck with that, because it comes up, right? It'll come up.
you have to move forward
Yeah.
because nobody else is going to acknowledge anything, and if you don't, then you're not trying to get acknowledgement, you never move forward.
Yeah. So how do you, Margaret? I'm glad you brought that up. As far as like acknowledging, there's a Jewish tradition. A year after the death, you go back to the grave. I've done this myself. They asked me to do it. You go back to the grave, and that's when the gravestone is put on, and whatever writing you're going to have on the grave, which I think is a wonderful tradition, I guess.
I mean, it wasn't put on before. They waited a year.
They wait a year. That's, as I understand it, there's a name for it. I can't remember.
Unveiling.
Thank you.
Unveiling.
The unveiling. Yeah, I figured you'd know that. So, yeah, the unveiling, and thank you for that. And that's part of it, is the acknowledgement. We're moving on.
We've had our grieving period.
And maybe we'll always have it. Maybe you'll have a sweet pain, you know. What do you tell parents that have lost kids, right? What do you tell them? Yeah, you know, give it a year. You're going to feel great after 1 year. Let's mark it on your calendar, and you know, then you can move on as if you never had those kids. I mean, you know, that's.
Well, you know, there's a place in Clinton Corners called Rose Hill Farm. I think that's the right name. They have really great corn and vegetables and stuff and meat and stuff. And they also have some adorable goats in the back. But his daughter died in a really sad car accident. She was young. And in her memory, they built, next to the store that has all this wonderful stuff, they built a sort of a new structure, which is a reading room. She was very interested in reading it, so it's for kids and everything. I thought that was one of the
Beautiful. Yes.
I haven't been in there in a while, but, and I forgot the name of the woman who runs it. She and her partner do this whole farm, and he does a whole bunch of other stuff. I think commercial planting and stuff, like we wouldn't do planting for individual people, you know, of trees and stuff, but, I haven't been into the reading room, but I got a bookmark from a little tassel, you know, because they had that even before building the structure. I just thought it was so moving. Her daughter actually is a dressage. She does all of them.
Oh, well,
I highly recommend if you're ever over in that area, you go into this place.
Yeah.
They have a really nice little store where you can
Uh-huh.
get natural local stuff. Little cute little things like things to put spoons in, right next to your stove, you know what I mean?
And are the goats right there sometimes when you go to the door? I think I've been there.
The ghosts are, they like to come up to you.
Yeah.
And there's signs about all the things you should not do with goats, you know, like
so,
Margaret, what time did you say?
Ruth, what would you like to say?
corners. It's on Salt Point Turnpike.
Children that you lost,
If you go through.
I've always heard that
Hang on, hang on.
you get double children, like he got everything else double, because the children were still alive in heaven. So he still really had 10 children.
Right.
And then
Okay.
he just got 10 children instead of 20, because
Uh-huh.
they were still,
Yeah, well, that's the tradition, trying to read this story, trying to make some sense, you know, come up, you know, how do we come up with this? I think it's really important to keep remembering, this is a group of writers that are writing this, you know, so it's like any book or any, you know, novel or something like that, movie, you know, trying to interact with the story, you know, and tradition is going to, you know, there are different different streams of tradition. And I haven't heard that one, but yeah, we're trying to make sense of this thing, the readers now, or the hearers. How do we deal with that? And no, go ahead.
I grew up with that tradition. I always thought of it that way, but I guess I don't really know how many kids he had at the beginning that he lost.
Yeah.
Was it 10?
I don't know.
That's what I was.
I don't
Have to go back to
I don't
the
recall.
beginning. If the Bible says he had 10 kids and lost them all, but they go to heaven because that's where they go. So then he only gets 10. They're not really replacements because the other ones are still there.
Mhm.
And that's not,
Is that satisfying to you? That explanation?
it doesn't.
That's a good question.
Well, you know, I mean, we're, you know.
I think you have to kind of know how many kids he had to start with that he lost, but I've always heard
I
it
mean,
that
I was
way.
thinking about that.
Yeah, you heard something like that too, Cindy?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I don't know if I-
Yeah, how do we close this circle? And you know, even the writers are trying to, but they leave the question open. Is this satisfying? Is that a satisfying ending?
It's still, I mean, even in real life, if you lose a child and the child is in heaven, it doesn't totally like answer the grief thing. It's like
No.
you're still grieving.
And St. Paul says we don't grieve like the world. You know that little line? Yeah, we don't grieve like the world. Well, how do we grieve? I would ask him that. How do we grieve? Do we say, snap, you know, everything's great, they're in heaven, they couldn't be luckier, and
Well,
that's not satisfying to me.
Job certainly did well with the kids that
Right,
he got.
terrific, oh, God.
But how he felt about what
Right,
he
what do you do with the
lost,
loss?
We don't
He did
hear
lose
about
that
that.
of the original ones.
Yeah, he lost everything.
I had to check to make sure,
Yeah, it's like the pillow guy.
because the wind came and struck the house and four corners of the house and it fell on the young people. So
Yeah, it was horrible.
Insane.
And how they died, you know.
It doesn't say anything about how many though.
No, it does, it says 7 sons and 3 daughters. And,
Oh, well, I guess
it's,
where was it?
where was, let's see, I just read it.
Hey, you got a whole new set.
I'm gonna ask Google
Oh,
how
give
many
it the
kids
first chapter.
Job had to
You
start
got
with.
it.
It's like,
Oh,
Got a whole new set. Good for him.
where did I see it?
He got a whole new set of kids. Terrific.
Oh, yeah, it's in line, you know.
Did you mention the brothers and sisters, and they all came and ate bread with Job and gave them money.
Chapter
Mhm.
1.
Yeah. Restored, yeah, totally restored.
Brothers and sisters were not killed. They didn't
Yeah.
die in the original catastrophe.
His kids are killed, aren't
It's
they?
just his children, not his
Yeah.
brothers. and
Not his,
sisters.
no, that's correct, yeah. It's not his brothers and sisters. His brothers and sisters were not killed. His kids were killed. His children. Well, grown children, probably, it sounds like. So, I mean, so you finish this story and you walk away from it, and what? It's kind of exhausting, isn't it? It's an exhausting book. What do you do? What do you do with being a friend? What does compassion mean? What does assuming you know what God is doing means? What does it mean to maybe where God is not in control, or he gives control to Satan, which is horrible. The same thing happens in the Garden of Eden, by the way. Right? There's a snake, the serpent. You know, what kind of God would put a serpent like that in the Garden of Eden? That question arises there as well, I think. Yeah, what do you do with all this? And then, I mean, that's up to you, and you can have your own nightmares. But the last question that I have for you is, okay, we read this story, it's written by a little group, we think, and that's great. Does this have anything to do with God? I don't mean about God, but is God somehow involved in writing this story? You'll hear, I say that because, like with 12-step program, for instance, there's a thing called the Big Book. And people that go in recovery, they will say the Big Book was inspired indeed by God. People wrote it, but God inspired it. So I'm asking the same or similar question about this. We pretty much know that a group of writers wrote it. But did God have anything to do with the writers in writing it?
I
What do you think?
It has everything to do with God.
Okay.
It must have. But it could give you hope too, that even though you're down and out and life seems horrible, if you have faith in God, he'll help you get out of it. And it can be your reward.
Oh, okay. All right. Could it, I'm just thinking now, but could it be something like God saying to us, I get it. It seems horrible. It seems like I'm not around. It seems like the rules don't always apply. Life is unfair. I get it. I get it. And I got a really good example of it myself, and it has to do with that.
Yeah.
Right? I get it. We've got a righteous person, Jesus, who also, it's like God says, yeah, I get it. I get it. Jesus is kind of the Job of heaven. Which is, it's something, right? It's profound. There are these harbingers in the Old Testament, these themes, these theologies, these narratives that run through the Old Testament, and a lot of them get picked up in the New Testament. Like, yeah, we get it. It's kind of like a relay race. You get the baton. And that's, I would say, a good example where the New Testament will say, yeah, we get it. Jesus is our Job. Or the Job of heaven, or however you want to put it. There's a lot of that in the New Testament where they grab the theme and go run with it.
Well, without getting into, too deep, God at a minimum is an idea that people had. At a minimum, okay? And the idea people had of God is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And Job reflects that. And like
Great.
all of our EEO programs and, giving Buddha, that also reflects that. That's an evolving idea of God and the good.
Mm-hmm.
What is good?
Yeah.
What is to strive for?
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Buddha had a lot of good ideas. And I always had this idea that somehow ideas from Buddha, who predated Christ, because he was like 600 BC or something,
Mm-hmm.
kind of migrated toward the Middle East and took over the more punishing earlier ideas of what God was all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, some people say Jesus found his way east. And there's books written, parallels of Jesus and Buddha. Yeah. There's these quiet years. He starts his ministry at 30, let's say Jesus does. What happened to him from 20 to 30? Where was he? Right, we don't know.
I think I've heard about that.
Yeah, some people say, well, he went east, and so they rake her similarities. Yeah. You got to. I had this discussion last night over at the Guararas too, as far as the limitations of 400,000 words. That's all you get in the English language. 400,000. That's it. And you're going to use those words like a palette, right? That's all you get to express enormity. That's all you get. It's not enough. So everything that you say, everything you read, everything you write, is approximate. So you have to be. It's not. You see what I'm saying? Language, English language or any language, will crack and snap under the weight of enormity.
And English has more words than a lot of languages.
Yeah, we have 400,000 according to the OED, the Oxford English Dictionary. It's 400,000 and change right now. They add.
Does it include rando yet?
I hope so. Yeah, you can get it online, so it's current, if you want to. But that's a good starting place, I think, to say, look, we're going to do the best we can with the language we've got, knowing that it will not suffice. It might suffice, but that's all. Maybe suffice. Does that make sense? Right? So you have to be a little humble reading, and you have to be a little humble speaking, because it's approximate. Right? A lot of people don't believe that. A lot of religious people do not believe that. That's what it says, so that's what it is. And okay. But not quite. It's not quite what it is.
It's like trying to describe an atom. Let's say you have the word atom, but really an atom, it's really complicated. So believe me, I don't understand it, but it's so complicated that people can't really ever totally comprehend it.
There it is, right.
They have all the words for it that actually represent it.
Yeah, that's another example of enormity. Yeah.
Short history of everything.
It's another example of enormity,
Yes.
right? Or even law. It's approximate. Law is not going to cover all eventualities of human behavior. You can't. You just can't. So you approximate it. You try. How is it that my hand, I've talked about this before with Mrs. Decker, my 5th grade teacher, science teacher. How is it that my hand doesn't go into this book, just meld into it? I'm still Tom Feet. Somehow this thing knows it's Tom Feet. It's amazing. We walk around with mysteries and enormity all day, every day. It's just, it's just the way it is. And I think the book of Job kind of helps us with that. You know, these writers are helping us be okay with it. It's okay to be confounded.
It's like a checkpoint. It's like a checkpoint.
Say more.
A checkpoint, Joe, when you read the Bible, it's like a reality check.
Okay, yeah, terrific, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm going to be going to Montreal on Monday, as I do, and every time I really have to concentrate, because they are going to ask me at the border. They're going to ask me, "Where are you going?" That's an existential question. The answer is Montreal. Right? But I want to say, I'm not really sure where I'm going. You can't say that. What are you bringing with you? That's another one. It's, promise, a lot of promise, but a lot of failure. You can't say that at the border. And how long will you be staying? I don't know my ending, right? How long are you going to be here? I don't know. I'm feeling good. Right? I mean, this can really spin out of control. And the first time I crossed the border, I don't know, 35, 40 years ago, I had a hitch. I couldn't answer it. So, because I wanted to go with this other stuff, right? My existential answers. Right? Because it was right. I mean, it's like a little sketch. Yeah, where are you going? Well, I hope my life is going to be okay. And that's where, and they're, they got guns. These people have guns.
That's like when we got held up. I think I told you, my father was driving with 3 girls giggling in the back seat. And we were giggling too much or doing something that just made the border patrol pull us all in for examination. Because I think they thought my father was trafficking us or something.
Right. How do you?
We were coming from Canada into the U.S.
Yeah, right.
We coming back from skiing up in the Laurentians, where it's really cold. Was then anyway. Oh God, this doesn't work. I got frostbite.
And you can't say too much. I've gone that direction too. Well, I'm going to stay at the Hotel Nelligan, and I'm going to go to this restaurant, and they're
Pick apples.
yeah, pick apples, and it's just go, Well, but yeah, I get quite a bit of anxiety when I'm at the border.
I think maybe they if there's any rule or reason to what they do, is maybe to check out if the person is nervous.
I'm terribly nervous.
Maybe they have something to be nervous about.
Yeah, right.
Write down your itinerary and say, here you go.
Well, and when they say, "Do you have any weapons?" you don't say, "I don't think so." That's not the answer.
I hope.
Right? I hope not. I don't think so. No, I don't. No, I don't have weapons. Well, I do have a knife. Does that count? I've gone through that before. Well, how big is the knife? Well, you want to see it? No, I don't want to see it. Well, they're honking behind me.
But don't forget during Prohibition, I mean, there was a huge amount of smuggling.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got booze.
And as we know, I mean, this is like
Right.
ice sailing. Maybe that's
Yeah.
ice sailing. People would sail across Lake Ontario.
Bootleggers.
I mean, like St. Clair, right near where I live, from Canada, because it wasn't that far. It wasn't that big a lake. There was a lot of smuggling. So it was then my mother smuggled China, because she bought this China in Canada.
Is that right?
Whatever. And we'd hide it under the sea of corn. So we smuggled this stuff. My father bought beer.
Then there's fruits and vegetables you gotta watch.
Oh, yeah, we snuck.
I'm always bringing that over, always bringing it. And I think maybe I should have told them that. I got tons of stuff in the car. Furs. Anyway, well, this has been a lot of fun. It's been terrific. And,
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate
Very
having the time.
illuminating.
Yeah, okay. So May, something like that, you'll figure it out. Okay. And we have Hippolytus liturgy on Thursday if you're interested at 7. And two services Friday, noon and 7.
Is it the 10 o'clock?
Yeah, well, it's it's my version of it.
Do you watch me?
I have, but we don't, we haven't.
And then the choir singing Friday night, I don't know
Yeah.
which dance it
Yeah, I'm gonna get that information right now. Yeah, that'll be good. Good to be together.
Yeah. It is.
I'm gonna go back. I discovered that I have one more handle from that set of books that wants to join its Fridays. It was
Oh,
all
yeah.
by itself.
I'm gonna use every bit of that. Every bit
That's
of it.
great,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm thinking about it. I don't know what happens, but I have one. On my list, it's measure to. So I don't know. And I have something. I might want them back, but you might want to borrow.
Yeah,
Just like,
if you don't mind.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll use it when you know I'll use it.
yeah, I have so much stuff. I'm accumulating, yesterday I tried to do some stuff, and got closed early. Anyway,
No,
I have a card.
buries us, doesn't it?
Yeah. and
Our
my
successes,
life
our
is-
successes.
Yeah, it's so thin, my days are so thing-filled, so this is such a relief from
Yeah.
things.
Good, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
For me too, by the way.
It's just like, I mean, you need a lot of stuff in life, but then I can,